At 72 years old, Helen Carter moved through life with a gentle confidence that came not from ambition, but from acceptance. Her snow-white hair framed her face like soft clouds, and her steady green eyes reflected decades of quiet observation. She spoke slowly, choosing her words with care, as if she understood their weight. People often found themselves opening up to her without knowing why. Helen lived in a small riverside town in Montana, where the water flowed calmly past rows of old wooden houses. Her home was a simple one-story cabin with a wide front porch and a rocking chair that creaked softly with movement. Each morning, she rose before sunrise, wrapped herself in a knitted shawl, and stepped outside to breathe in the crisp air. The sound of birds and flowing water grounded her, reminding her that life still moved forward. To the town's residents, Helen was simply the quiet, older woman by the river. But behind her peaceful routine was a life shaped by struggle, sacrifice, and resilience. In her younger years, Helen had worked as a bus driver for the local school district. She drove the same route for nearly 30 years, greeting children by name and making sure no one felt invisible. For some kids, she was the only adult who asked how their day had been. She learned early that kindness didn't need grand gestures. It only needed consistency. Helen married Frank Carter, a mechanic with grease-stained hands and a warm smile. Their relationship wasn't flashy, but it was deeply rooted in respect. They saved slowly, argued rarely, and found joy in the smallest things. Shared meals, long drives, and quiet evenings spent listening to the radio. They never became wealthy, but their home was filled with laughter and warmth. Life shifted when Frank was diagnosed with a heart condition in his early 60s. Medical appointments replaced vacations, and uncertainty became part of their daily lives. Helen stayed strong, managing work and caregiving without complaint. When Frank passed away peacefully one winter night, the silence that followed was unbearable. For months, Helen moved through her days like a shadow. She cooked meals she couldn't finish and slept on only one side of the bed. The river outside her home flowed as it always had, but inside everything felt frozen. Loneliness pressed heavily on her chest, and grief became her constant companion. One evening, while sorting through old boxes, Helen found Frank's handwritten notes, small reminders he used to leave her. One reads simply, "Keep going." That moment changed something inside her. Instead of retreating further into isolation, Helen made a choice. She would remain present in the world. She began by volunteering at a local community kitchen, helping prepare meals for families in need. At first, she kept to herself, quietly chopping vegetables and washing dishes. Over time, people noticed her patience and calm energy. Soon, she was listening to stories of job loss, broken families, and quiet desperation. Helen didn't offer solutions. She offered something rarer: attention. As the years passed, her involvement grew. She helped organize donation drives, assisted elderly neighbors with errands, and taught basic budgeting skills to young adults who had never been shown how to manage money. Her cabin slowly became a place people visited, not for advice, but for understanding. Physically, Helen aged as anyone does. Her back curved slightly, her hands trembled on cold mornings, and her steps slowed. But emotionally, she grew lighter. Her face carried lines of experience, not regret. She dressed comfortably, favoring soft sweaters and neutral tones, unconcerned with appearances. At 72, Helen understood something she had spent a lifetime learning. Value isn't measured by success, but by impact. She had never been famous. She had never traveled far, yet she had shaped lives simply by being present. One spring afternoon, a teenage boy knocked on her door. He had been struggling with anger and loss, unsure where to turn. Helen invited him in, offered tea, and listened. They spoke for hours. She shared no dramatic wisdom, only honesty. When he left, his shoulders seemed lighter. Moments like that reminded Helen that her life still mattered. As seasons changed, the river continued its steady flow. Helen sat on her porch each evening, watching the sky change colors, grateful not for what she had achieved, but for what she had given. At At 72 years old, Helen Carter had learned that a meaningful life isn't loud, it doesn't demand attention, it unfolds quietly, in acts of kindness, in listening ears, and in the courage to keep going even when the world feels empty. And though she lived simply, her presence left a mark that would outlast her years, proof that even the quietest lives can carry the deepest strength.